Right, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are going to do a buyer's guide, well an A service and a buyer's guide on a 209 CLK. It seems to be quite popular. A lot of people ask for it in the comments, and luckily I own one, so that's handy. So we're going to do an A service. While we do the A service, we're going to do a buyer's guide, what to look out for should you fancy one of these yourself. I'm quite a big fan of the CLK for a 20-year-old car. I think it still looks really good, and I don't really think you can go wrong with one for value for money, depending which one you want. I've got a 55 AMG, but the principle of the buyer's guide is the same, whether it be AMG or non-AMG. So we've just took the car out for a road test before the service, just to get it nice and hot, because it's been in storage for about 6 months. So we're going to head back to the workshop now. Sorry about the unsteady camera. Get it on the ramp and start the buyer's guide. Right, before we even get out of the car, these used to suffer with heater flaps behind the dashboard. So basically that controls the direction of the airflow, windscreen, feet, face, etc, etc. They used to suffer a fault where the motors used to fail and cause a really high-pitched clicking noise. It was either the motor or the teeth on the flap, one of the two, but you could never actually know which one until you took the dashboard out. So to make sure that's working okay, you just, every time you turn the ignition on in the car, all the flaps open and close. So you do that, make sure there's no clicking, and the clicking is the flap closing and pinging back. I actually had this fault myself with this car, and I had to remove the whole dashboard, and I had to replace three or four motors in total, and it's a really expensive job. It's most common, I've found, with the models with automatic climate control, which is automatic air temperature rather than the analog dials. So I'll show you a picture of that, but a lot of them did suffer with that, especially the early models, these pre-facelift ones. So that's definitely something to look out for. But a lot of the things I'm going to go through today is going to make the car sound worse than it is, but I'm just explaining what I've experienced over the years. Don't forget, these cars are 20 years old, and a lot of people have had a lot of the faults that I'm going to show you fixed over the years. But if I show you everything, then you never know, it might help somebody somewhere. So what we'll do is we'll service the car, and as we're going around the car, I'll explain what potentially can or has gone wrong previously in the car's life, and gives everyone an idea of what to look out for. So first thing I'd say is on this engine, which is M113, this is 500s, early 500s, and 55 AMGs, and also M112s, which is basically a V6 version of this, is to look for oil leaks from the breather box, which is this, which you can see on mine, it is leaking around the top. Rocker cover gaskets, which is down the bottom, which again I would say mine is leaking, so that's something to take care of. We'll actually do that in a different video. And also oil filter housing, which is this, which bolts down to the bottom, and the cooler bolts to the side. That's also a common one for oil leaks. You can see actually down there. You can't really see, can you? But we'll see if we can get a better look from underneath. But those 3-4 items are quite common for oil leaks. So that's M112, M113 engines, V6 and V8s, early models, because the later 320s and 500s was a different engine again. But yeah, I'd say I've definitely got a leak and it needs some attention. Right, vehicle mid-raised. These are quite common for springs snapping, so probably is something you can inspect if you're viewing one of these. Really common for snapping. If you own a 55 AMG like I do, unfortunately Mercedes have stopped production of 55 AMG springs, so if you have a broken spring on one of these, you are in a bit of a predicament. You can still get 63 AMG springs on 500 springs, but currently they're no longer available, and as far as I'm aware they haven't been for some time. Got to gauge the bucket. What do you reckon?
Gonna go everywhere.
Right, we're just going to get the oil draining and then we'll take you around a bit more of the car and show you some more stuff. Important note on the 55 AMGs that they have 2 drains, that being the first one. And the second one is up here. It's important to do both. It's there, so you just do it. I wanted to try and show you the oil leak from up top underneath, but you really can't see much, so you just got to take my word for it. You can see the mess it's making, but like I say, that's breather boxes, rocker cover gaskets, oil filter housing seal and cooler seals. But we are going to do that full job on another video, so you will get a better look at that. Common faults underneath the car, same as the front springs, is the rear springs. It's quite difficult to check really. You'd need a mirror. So rear springs are quite common. You'd expect quite a harsh metallic rattling sound from the back. That's something to look out for. Again, like I said before, everything I'm showing you, a lot of stuff will have been done in the car's lifespan by now. I feel like in the CL video, a lot of people were presuming I'm like just annihilating the car, but it's not the case. A lot of these cars have had work spent on them. Moving on to the front of the car, multi-link suspension. All these components used to be common back in the day, but like I say, a lot of it has been done. Steel suspension arms, alloy arms, trapwood ends used to be quite common. Again, you'd expect a bit of clunking and banging over speed bumps. The ball joints used to fail, the bushes used to fail. If, in fact, I've inspected this off camera, one of mine needs doing. You can see the bush at the bottom there, split. You can see there. that split shouldn't be there. So that's a job that needs doing on mine, and I actually replaced them when I bought the car about 6 years ago, so now that one needs doing again. If you ever need the front suspension arms, to get that front suspension arm out, you have to remove the anti-roll bar. Now these bolts that bolt the roll bar to the body are very common for seizing into the subframe. The chances of them snapping are very high. So if you get a phone call off your garage to say the bolt snapped, or we can't get it out, or we're going to have to drill it out, they're not having you on. That is a nightmare if that snaps. I've had it happen to myself. I do have a little trick of getting them out, but just bear that in mind. If you ever need front arms, you have to take the roll bar off, and they are common for the bolts snapping off. And unfortunately, you've got to drill it out of the subframe. Another common fault on all Mercedes, to be honest, not just CLKs, anything with a big rim, is cracked rims. As you can see there, that's to have a weld done before. That's not uncommon. Also on the back end, you've got a ball joint inside there, from there to there, and that's called a rose bush, and we used to replace quite a few of them back in the day. That used to cause a really bad squeak when you went over a speed bump, so much so you could bounce up and down on the back of the car and it would squeak away. I won't tell you what it sounded like, but you get the point. Another common one is the handbrake cable clips used to fail. You see these blue clips? They used to snap off and the cable used to drop on the prop shaft, which runs down the car to the diff, and as it was going round it used to touch it, and it sounded like you had a hamster running around inside your centre console, and if you did a left or a right round a roundabout, it would stop and the noise would come back. That was a common one. Easy fix though, just a new clip, tie it back out the way, and that was done, but we used to do loads of them. Another common fault used to be the alarm siren, and what used to happen with that was it would go off randomly in the middle of the night and wake up all your neighbours. So, and it was the alarm siren itself that was short-circuiting and setting itself off. They've actually modified the siren from the original one, so that was a common fault. Gearbox, 5-speed gearbox, really important to keep on top of your gearbox servicing, quite a neglected service item. Common faults on these are gearbox plugs, which is behind there. I've got one here to show you actually. So basically that goes in the side of the gearbox and your electrical plug goes in the back, and basically these two seals can just deteriorate and start leaking gearbox fluid, so that's quite common. Gearbox conductor plates inside the gearbox are common. If that fails, it can put your gearbox in limp mode, so you'll be stuck in second gear and that's it, it won't change gear. That's about it really. So gearbox plugs, keep on top of your gearbox servicing. Worst case scenario, gearbox conductor plates. We used to do loads back in the day, but I can't remember the last time I did a 5-speed one, because the majority of the cars have had them by now, to be honest. Genuine filter, as always. On this particular filter Mercedes supply, it actually fits more than one engine, so you get too many O-rings. So you decide which ones you want and you'll have one left over. So if you're actually doing this yourself and you have an O-ring left over, don't be alarmed. Just while we're filling the oil up, another common one on M112s and M113s is crankshaft sensors. We used to do loads of them back in the day. We still do a few now, to be fair. Symptoms of that are car cuts out when it's hot and it will not restart until it cools down. Or you drive the car, say, to a petrol station when it's nice and hot, fill up the car with fuel, go and pay, come back out, and again it won't restart. That's not as bad as if it cuts out on you, because obviously that's not nice. But if you're unfamiliar with the car and it's got that engine in it, if you've got no service history of it ever having a crank sensor, it's probably the main thing I'd recommend, because that is something that can leave you stranded. Right, we are going to run through some servicing and repair costs. This is just an idea. Obviously every garage charges differently and it depends on what parts you're using. How good's that for a cup holder?
German engineering.
Good that, isn't it?
Pure German, innit?
I love this car. A service, I'm quoting for AMG because this is what this is. A service on this car would be about 200 quid. A B service, you're looking about 350 quid. That would include your oil filter, 2 air filters and a cabin filter. Your gearbox servicing would be about 250 quid. The gearbox plug that goes in the side, if that was to leak, you'd be looking around £50 for the part and labour. Same with the gearbox service, that's a package price for everything done. The gearbox plate, should that ever fail, that's quite expensive, it's £500, but that's for the plate, and that would include a gearbox service as well, and it would include a plug, in fact. Spark plugs to change on this beast, there is 16 plugs in total. You're looking about £200 to replace your plugs. They are due every 36,000 miles and 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously we've gone through a lot of suspension components. I can't go through each individual component because we'll be here all day, and all our filming is done whilst we're actually working on the car, so there's no retakes or anything like that. We're doing everything in a rush. But to give you an idea on suspension costs on this model, you could easily cost you £200 per suspension item, whether that's supplied or supplied and fitted. If you take that as a general rule, you won't be far off. So say a front coil spring is about £60–70 for a genuine spring, and then you're looking at an hour's labour to fit, so you're looking at £200. Again, a suspension arm is about £80–100 plus the labour, you're looking around £200. So if you take £200 as a rule of thumb for any suspension item, you're probably not going to be far off, maybe more. In some cases, like the little rose bushes on the back, maybe a bit less. So hopefully that gives everyone a good idea on what to look for on a CLK. This is a pre-facelift CLK, and this will cover the 240s, the 320s, the 500s and the 55 AMGs. So the pre-facelift models was 112 V6 and 113 V8. They did loads of engines in this CLK because it ran from 2002 to 2009, I think. I can't cover all the engines because it'd be like a 2-hour video. But if we get a facelift CLK in, we'll do a buyer's guide again covering the newer engines that they used in the later models. But as a base, this will cover all CLKs but only certain engines. So hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe, and again, if you're enjoying the buyer's guides, let us know because we'll continue to do them. Cheers.